You're listening to Autumn on the Air, the weekly podcast that brings you conversations about the impact of research commercialization and the people who make it happen. Join us for interviews with patent and licensing professionals, innovators, entrepreneurs, and tech transfer leaders on the issues and trends that matter most. Keep listening for an inside track on the people, IP policies, and politics changing our world.
Welcome to Autumn on the Air. Today we have a special episode featuring two leaders who are transforming how university research becomes real-world impact. The University of Rhode Island Research Foundation, URIRF, is currently undergoing an exciting rebrand to URI Innovations, reflecting its evolution into a comprehensive hub for technology translation, entrepreneurship, and strategic partnership. Today, we'll talk about how that transformation, including an innovative initiative called Rise Up that's reshaping how entrepreneurship training happens on campus and beyond, and the momentum they're building through their inaugural tech showcase. Our guests are Peter Rumsey, AVP of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at URI Innovations. Pete is a former military officer and brings over 30 years of business development experience in private industry and has been instrumental in launching the Rise Up initiative supported by the U.S. Office of Naval Research. He's recently been honored as a career achiever by Providence Business News for his work in innovation and economic development in Rhode Island and beyond. Pete is also a part-time instructor in innovation and entrepreneurship at URI, the chair emeritus at Leadership Rhode Island, and chairs the Rhode Island State Innovation Hub, also known as RI Hub. Allison Markova is Director of Technology Transfer and Innovation Partnerships at URI Innovations. Allison recently joined the organization in this newly expanded role, bringing deep expertise from her previous position as the Director of Technology Transfer at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Allison's focused on evolving URI's intellectual property and commercialization programs into a more integrated engine for research translation, entrepreneurship, and industry partnership. Welcome to the podcast, Pete and Allison.
Hey, good morning.
Morning, Lisa.
So I thought the best place to start the podcast off is for us to talk about the rebranding of URI Research Foundation to URI Innovations. Talk to us about what's driving this change and what does the new vision look like?
Sure. Overall, the way we look at it now is URI Innovations is really homed, or URI Research Foundation is the home of URI Innovations. And we're really beginning this week to use that as a primary outward-facing name. And we know that our underlying legal entity with much history is the URI Research Foundation, but we're really excited because the old name caused confusion. It's a great name, except for the fact that we're not really a foundation and doing grants, and we're not really doing research. So other than that, it was a fantastic name. And But the URI Innovations outward-facing name and branding really encapsulates and captures what we're up to now, using innovation and entrepreneurship to drive tech translation and strategic partnerships as an umbrella. And we're really creating a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship around all of our innovation at URI. So we're really excited about it.
Now, you mentioned this rebranding was necessary because it was creating confusion. Obviously, that's probably existed for a while. Why now? Why was it necessary to make this evolution at this point in time?
Yeah, well, it really came up organically. It's come up because as we've really devoted ourselves to accelerating our translation of research at URI, we had to figure out how we were going to do that bigger and better than we were before. And it caused us to really look inside, and it's important for me to mention that URI for the second year in a row has been ranked as the #1 university in New England by the Wall Street Journal. And we're an R1 university now. And research has grown significantly, I think a 25% increase in the last 4 or 5 years. So we need to scale our translation capacity alongside that and really rise to the level that the university deserves. And in order to do that, we had to recognize, as many universities have, so this is proven science, but we had to recognize for ourselves, of course, as one does it, that we couldn't get there by just, for example, finding patents and licensing them more rapidly. That's really an old way to look at things. What we needed to do was to try to figure out how we could work with our researchers and grad students to look at both their intellectual property as well as their know-how and bring that to market in meaningful ways, creating products and services that have real-world applications, and even creating startup organizations and or working with outside industry partners to bring those to life with real customers. So that's all about, we actually at URI, a lot of the innovation and entrepreneurship training that we do embraces the philosophies and the trainings of a gentleman named Bill Aulet out of MIT. And he says, his equation that we love is, he says, innovation equals inventions times commercialization. And that lets, and we look at that again, breaking that down a little bit. Inventions are things like patents. They don't necessarily yet have a real world application. You need to add commercialization to make it a real innovation. And at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is how you spark that commercialization. So that's really what we embrace. And that's why we think the name is wonderful.
So it really is a great name. And Allison, I'm curious, what does the new brand promise represent to your stakeholders, whether it's faculty, students, industry partners, and the broader Rhode Island ecosystem?
Sure. So I'll just reiterate what Pete said, that I think one of the simplest benefits of the new brand is clarity, that it's really self-explanatory in its name. And at its core, the brand promise is really about transforming discovery into impact. And we do that through connecting people, expertise, and opportunity. So for faculty and students, that means more engagement, honest, strategic guidance, transparent processes and pathways. So that could be licensing. That could also be pursuing entrepreneurship through startup options, partnerships with industry. And so we're treating intellectual property as a tool that supports the right path, but not the default outcome. For industry and ecosystem partners, it really represents a clear and reliable way to connect with URI's research strengths and to build sustained collaboration. So we're really committed to strengthening the infrastructure that allows companies to come in and collaborate with the university.
So this rebrand, it sounds like it really reflects a shift in URI Innovations' role and mission. Talk to us a little bit about this change and how work has evolved since initial founding of URI Research Foundation.
So I think one of the biggest shifts is that we're meeting researchers early. So we're engaging with them when it's still an idea, when it's messy, when it's exploratory, when things aren't yet clearly defined. And that's actually where we think that thoughtful strategy can make the biggest difference. So the rebrand helps us reframe our role from primarily managing processes and kind of functioning as more of an IP office to partnering in exploration and evaluation of new research and later execution. It also signals that we welcome the "I'm not really sure if this is anything yet" conversations, which I think people have felt a little bit intimidated to have those in the past. And that's where really magical connections can come from those, especially with what Pete and team have done with kind of connecting the regional ecosystem.
You have a couple core pillars: intellectual property stewardship, venture development, and strategic partnerships. Talk to us about how all of these work together in practice.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you framed that, because I think our goal with these three kind of pillars is coordination and timing, not siloed functions. So going back to what Pete said earlier, we're treating IP as a tool, but not the default outcome. So in terms of IP stewardship, we're looking to start the conversations early, work a little bit more closely with the inventors around opportunity assessment, and use that as a way to decide the best pathway, and then plug them into the regional resources, the resources within URI that can help them in support of whatever that best pathway is. If partnership to facilitate introductions and structures for them, whether that's sponsored or industry research projects, collaboration, licensing. And then again, if IP is filed or used, we're doing that strategically in support of the chosen pathway, not as an automatic first step. So overall, we're actively building deeper integration within the URI ecosystem. And with limited capacity and a small team, it makes consistency and integration all the more important.
Definitely. And I want to turn to you, Pete, and ask you a little bit about what strategic partnership there looks like. And if you can, share some of your key partners.
Sure. Well, strategic partnership, as you allude to there, can mean a lot of different things. It can mean everything from an industry partner coming in wanting to do sponsored research at the university through a new startup, or again, an industry department of an industry partner wanting to actually set up shop at the university and actually be in some of our new incubators and innovation centers that we're setting up. And in many ways, it really depends, and we want to have an open menu and the ability to flex to meet our partners and or new nascent startups where they are in their development. It can be very fundamental at a research level, a low TRL level, so to speak, or it can go all the way through a company wanting to come into the university and use one of our core facilities for fee and actually do in-field real-world testing to raise the TRL level into total readiness level. Sorry to speak in acronyms, Lisa. I think but to be able to field those solutions and actually put them through their paces. And we have some great strategic partners that we're working with here. I'm reticent to mention one because I'll leave somebody out, but some really cool ones include a new company that moved to Rhode Island from up in Massachusetts called Regent Craft, who have created a foiling in water. It's an aircraft. It starts floating like a boat, and then it foils, and then it flies.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So it's and that is really most likely going to be the future of near coast traveling. You could get somewhere like from Boston to New York City in a half hour, and you can do it with not with pilots, but it's considered to be a captain. So you can train a whole new air crew on how to do that. And the technology and the applications, really dual use applications are incredible, from defense through commercial aviation and everything in between. We also work very closely with the Naval Underwater Warfare Center. So this is really a government defense organization. I recently, a great number of our students go and work at Newark as their first job. And it's a real incredible partner in that they many of them are educated at URI, and at the same time, they also partner with us to further the development of their technologies. So we love having them. They're actually present in an office in our Ocean Technology Innovation Center today. And one last type of partner I'd like to talk about is we're incubating several different companies. So we have companies like Audience that are working on advanced lithium-ion battery technologies, and companies like Juice Robotics, who are working on sensing within the ocean, inexpensive, deep water sensing, and different methods to deliver that with fiber optic connections to drones and surface vehicles and everything in between. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really leveraging your geography where you are, given that Rhode Island's between Long Island Sound and Atlantic Ocean. So it sounds like that's very helpful and very convenient.
Yeah, you picked up on that. It's hard. We are the ocean state, and we're presenting that, and we're really very involved in a lot of ocean and, as we call it, blue technologies. So many of our partners around that, not exclusively. We have great partners in pharmaceutical study and the biosciences and biotech. We have a great engineering department, and many things in between, but definitely the ocean looms very large around us here.
Literally and figuratively. There we go.
Yeah.
So, Allison, I wanted to ask you, talk to us a little bit about how these three pillars create synergy for URI's innovation ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, I think a really great example are some of the ones that Pete just talked about, where we can have really interesting IP coming out of the university, have a very clear pathway for it into something like the Ocean Technology Innovation Center, where we can help incubate it, and then find partners that are actually moving to the ocean state as their new base. And so I think we are going to see many more blue tech companies popping up in Rhode Island, and I think URI will continue to grow in its leadership position around ocean tech.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on in that space. And besides kind of this blue ocean technology that you have going on, you have some really amazing programs as well. And I want to talk about one of those, which is Rise Up, which is a tri-state initiative with the Office of Naval Research that focuses on dual-use technologies. What inspired this program, and how does it differ from traditional entrepreneurship training?
Oh, wow. So, yeah, the Rise Up program with the Office of Naval Research in the Navy has been a phenomenal program for us. Actually, run together, we co-run this program with the University of Alaska as well as the University of Hawaii, and in this case, the Office of Naval Research and a couple of very great leaders there looked at our three states, Alaska, Hawaii, and Rhode Island, and they saw many similarities. And they said, actually, you guys all look exactly the same to us. And we were all ears, and we said, how is that, right? And they said, here's the thing above all else. In effect, you're all ocean states. You're very focused on the ocean. All of your states have about 1 million human beings in them. You have about 1 million citizens. You all have a very large university system involved in all of those three states. And you're all very strategically important to the Navy. And we want to work with you to figure out how to create more entrepreneurs for supply chain, as well as how to create workforce development so that we can make sure that we have the best and brightest and a steady stream of them in those states. So they looked at that and they said, here's our thesis, or here's what we'd like you to do. We'd like you to create an innovation, really entrepreneurship programs within the universities, and even reaching out across your states and to your communities that can help foster creating dual-use solutions. And this is the real brilliance that I see in it to this day, very visionary. The Navy looked at it and said, and this is, let's just say the Defense Department looked at it and said, we know that entrepreneurship rarely works. Number one, you don't know exactly how your product is going to be successful in the market. And number two, we know because we're in defense that it's a very hard thing to set up a company to just serve defense applications or military applications. That usually takes 5 to 10 years if you're lucky. And most startups, a very small percentage can actually make it through that, what's commonly called the value of death in Clay Christensen's model of creating a new company. So they said, what you really need to do and what entrepreneurs need to do is take a lot of shots on goal, and they should actually, as part of their strategy, create solutions that are dual use, that have both commercial as well as possible defense applications. And they need to make sure that they can get up on their feet without depending on the Defense Department to fund their, early successes. So create healthy, robust, dual use companies and try to create an environment where you're actually educating students, faculty members, postdocs, and even community members on how to do that very well. If you create that fertile environment, we know that a lot of great solutions will come out, both products and services. And we also know that we'll develop a very nimble, agile, creative workforce. So we've loved this program, and we're about 3 years into it right now, and it has essentially helped us change the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship at URI. Is actually the pilot program by which we're creating URI Innovations and really embracing this. So it's been incredible.
So you mentioned who participates in Rise Up. Talk to us a little bit about what the training looks like for these individuals.
Sure thing. So within the Rise Up program, we actually have 4 different tracks, if you would, or we call them pillars often. And these 4 different pillars focus on different groups, but oftentimes individuals move between those pillars. And we're often piloting new pillars, if you would. So one of the first programs is Introduction to Innovation Entrepreneurship Training for Undergraduate students. And we have something that is often called Hacking for Defense training. And we also have Introduction to Entrepreneurship for nascent innovators, if you would. And we teach those classes. For the Hacking for or Pathways to Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Defense course, we work with local as well as national level defense organizations or industry partners who are involved with defense, and they actually give us some of their biggest and most complex problems, and we take teams of undergraduate and early graduate students, and we let them hack on those problems, if you would, using a standard methodology. We use Steve Blank's model for creating business model canvases, and we use Bill Aulet's methods of disciplined entrepreneurship, and we walk the students through problem solving and breaking down those problems and coming up with creative solutions. And the real amazing thing is, Lisa, oftentimes when the industry partner comes with a particular problem that they think is the problem, our students figure out that that's not actually the real problem. And they come up with very creative other ideas. So that's one pillar. That's that undergraduate training. Taking that to the next level, we also have something called patents to products. The patents to products pillar, which takes it up the next level, lets us identify intellectual property and know-how that needs to be accelerated from a patent, as the name says, or an idea into a product. Oftentimes, this doesn't happen within a university. You have new patents, but there's not both attention on how to commercialize that and create a new venture or work with an industry partner to create a product or a service. And oftentimes, but for just a few dollars here and there, a little, a single digit thousands of dollars to buy materials or a new a program, a piece of software that you use, it doesn't translate and become a product or a service or a real company. So in that program, we actually sponsor undergraduate students working with their faculty members to translate their technology into a commercial asset. So these we offer fellowships basically to grad level students working on very promising technology, and we help them, coach them, mentor them, and even provide them little pieces of gap funding very carefully that let them bring those solutions to life in a very real way. So that's our Patents to Products program. That's 2 out of the 4 programs. I'll try to be more succinct in the remaining 2. The next program that we have is something that we call faculty fellows, innovation faculty fellows. And we're even morphing that name to be something even more fun now into into innovation faculty ambassadors. And this is where we are actually taking faculty, most often faculty who have a little glimmer of entrepreneurship in them, and we take them out and show them, again, these same tools. The tools are the same across all the different pillars. The Steve Blank business model canvas, the Bill Aulet disciplined entrepreneurship, and a few other tools. We give those to these faculty members from cross-disciplinary colleges. So they could be in pharmacy, they could be in the life sciences, they could be engineers, they may even be oceanographers. We've even had a clarinet virtuoso professor come in, and they take these tools and then they integrate them into their curriculum so that innovation and entrepreneurship become embedded in those different disciplines. We're not smart enough to know, I don't know how to be a clarinet virtuoso, but I can show that professor something about innovation and entrepreneurship. By the way, that's a great success story. That professor came back and said, you know what, this is one of the most important things I've ever done, because my students, when they graduate, they most often have to create a job for themselves. There aren't a lot of jobs out there for clarinetists, and they have very creative minds and oftentimes go on to create their own new ventures. Finally, the last kind of pillar is an umbrella. It's our Ideation Studio program. This is our open call to all entrepreneurs, whether they be undergrad students, grad students, faculty member, or even community members, to come in each semester. And we also run it during the summer. And we take them through a 10-week course applying these same innovation and entrepreneurship tools. And we take them from an idea through customer discovery, through creating a first product, if you would. It's called an MVP, a minimally viable product or minimally viable experience. And we have them take that out and actually create traction, hopefully get their first sale, someone laying down a credit card or paying them money. And we even, at the end of it, kind of the culminating event is we have pitch contest where they get up in front of people and they pitch their idea. And that's the hardest thing. If you're in this, it's the hardest thing on earth to do, is to stand up in front of people and really put it all out there and describe your idea succinctly. So those are our 4 pillars. Those 4 pillars have created really the bedrock of a future innovation hub for URI, something that we're calling the URI Innovation Hub that we're creating now with the power of URI Innovations behind it. And we look forward in the next couple of years to having Rise Up become organic at URI and really our innovation and entrepreneurship fabric within the university as we stand this up.
It's really an amazing program. And you mentioned a success story, and I'm sure you have many others. I'm curious, how do you measure impact? Are there specific metrics you track?
Definitely. So all the usual, right? We do everything through, especially with Allison's help, we're tracking things as fundamental as new disclosures for intellectual property through patents issued, through licenses and new startup entities created, and also sponsored research from outside industry partners, because it can be entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship, and we can be working within an industry partner. So we've got all these fundamental metrics, Lisa, which is very well-trodden territory. But something more intangible that we're measuring is a change in culture. And we're even starting to look at things like how often we get called by undergrad students or faculty to help them, to have the early conversation. And I'm proud to say that is really starting on an uptick right now. As Allison alluded to earlier and kind of manifested in the URI Innovations name, we want to make it fun. We want to be concierges, because if it's fun, people want to do it, right? And it's not administrative. It's not scary. It's not overwhelming. We want people to enjoy this journey. So we're measuring those type of engagements. How often do we get called? How often do people engage with us to vet their ideas? And ultimately, something that maybe isn't measurable, how is our culture changing? And ultimately, we'll know the success. Allison and I will be judged by how many disclosures do we have? How are we tracking with the research spending at the university? But there are many ways to make that happen. And it all starts with a cultural change at a grassroots level and having students and faculty and even community members trust us and like working with us so that they really dive in with both feet.
Now, I want to go back to one of the pillars that you mentioned, which was the Ideation Studio pitch night, which you had one back in December of last year. Tell us what that event revealed about student innovation there at URI.
Yeah, well, that particular pitch night, now I think we just did our 9th or 10th of them. And what's getting very fun is we're actually a bunch of things happen here. Again, most importantly, it's taking students or faculty members or community members, and they're getting up on stage after they've spent 8 to 10 weeks creating this idea for this new venture, and they're pitching that idea. They're putting it all out there, and they're talking to the audience about what their business model is and what their value proposition is, what their minimally viable product or experience looks like, and actually what the next steps are. They're almost required to make an ask. It could be in funding. It could be that they're still so early that they're looking for mentorship or connections. And what it really reveals again is how our culture is changing. In this ideation studio, in the early days, if you would, 3 or 4 years ago when we were doing these, we oftentimes would find a cohort only had 3 or 4 applicants at the front end, and we'd be running around a couple days beforehand to come up with 2 or 3 more teams, and we'd be teaching a class. It was great, but 4 to 6 different teams through this process. Right now, we just started last week for this semester, our cohort, and we have 22 people in it representing 10 different ventures. And it really is revealing that the culture has changed at the university, and folks are being very brave in getting up there and testing out their entrepreneurial chops in front of everybody. I'd be lying to you, Lisa. In college, I never got the chance to do that. Nobody ever made me do that. And I wouldn't have dared to do it. We now have freshmen, sophomore, and even tenured professors who have been professors their whole life getting up there and taking the leap. And it's really inspiring to see.
That is extraordinarily inspiring. Talk to us about some of the winning ideas and how you support the winners after the event.
Sure. So we've had winning ideas across the spectrum, dual use solutions as well as individual services. One venture that comes immediately to mind is a grad student that was working on a new software application that took data around cleaning streets. So it's called SWPT, SWPT. And this particular grad student had taken a lot of data around, and he had found that ultimately street sweepers on both town as well as city streets use random patterns, and they didn't really have a scientific method to figure out how to clean up the streets, take in all the salt and dirt, and do it in a way that is very sustainable for the environment. Using AI, he's actually created models about how to do that more effectively and efficiently, and also, to mitigate pollution in the environment. And he took this from a concept all the way through a marketable product. And now globally, he has people taking a look at them, governments across the world taking a look at his software and how he might bring that to life. That's just one idea, right? And then another, I'll go back to, I mentioned it before, the juice robotics application. When they originally came into our Ideation Studio cohort, they had created a camera with some intellectual property that could go very deep without the camera imploding. Just a single camera idea. Since then, it's become a fleet of sensors connected with a fiber optic cable inside a textile sheath that makes it very strong. And now they're actually connecting that with a fiber optic spool to a drone in the air, lowering it into the water. The entire suite, including the drone, can be fielded for single-digit thousands of dollars and carried in the back of your car. And they can do things that as recently as a year or two ago, you used to have to spend a couple $100,000 and plan this for 6 months in advance or a year in advance to go out and test in a particular ocean environment. They can now do this in hours for single-digit thousands of dollars out of the back of your car. And I'm keeping it very simple there, but the applications are astounding. Lisa, I could go on all day, but those are two instances. By the way, we all live vicariously through these solutions. I'm a former reformed entrepreneur, and now we get to do it and watch our students and faculty members bring those solutions to life, and it's really fun.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are having a really, really good time. And I want to talk a little bit about your inaugural tech showcase, which happened last September. Walk us through what made this event significant for the university and for Rhode Island's innovation ecosystem.
Yeah, well, that's really exciting. We decided in pretty short order, with about 2 months lead time in the summer, we said, it's time, where we think the culture's changing. We've got the Rise Up program that's evolving into the URI Innovation Studio, Innovation Entrepreneurship program at URI. And we think we need to create like this North Star, this program. And what happened as well was just around that time, I got invited to the Yale Ventures event. And this was down in New Haven, Connecticut, where Yale started about 2 decades ago, but really over a decade ago, having a big event every year where they bring in a lot of venture capitalists as well as community members and ecosystem partners, and they take all of their startup ventures and intellectual property from the university and put it on display. We saw that and we said, we've got to do it. We've got to take the leap. Let's make it happen. And we did this event, bringing together, we don't have hundreds of them like Yale does, but we have dozens of them. And we put this event in place and it was received incredibly well. And we even had a gentleman named John Soderstrom, who helped create Yale Ventures, come up, and he's acting as a mentor, and he was our keynote speaker, and he came in and really encouraged us. He took us through their journey when they first did their first showcase, and they pledged that they would create new funded startups out of the university. They set a goal. I think they said that they were going to create 5 was their goal, ultimately annually to create 5. In the first couple years, they didn't get any, but then they created 2 and then 4, and now they're creating like 10 a year. We put it out there and we said, we're going to create 2 a year starting this year. And last year, we put 10 up on the stage. And now we're working really hard to get a couple of those funded so that they can launch their companies. And then we're creating more companies to come in behind them, or more people to get up on stage. So you can tell, again, Lisa, we're incredibly excited about it. What it really was is us putting our proverbial money where our mouth is and really showing our stuff. And it's almost like we ourselves are being somewhat innovative and entrepreneurial in getting up on the stage with those startups, putting it out there for folks, and taking a shot at this.
And that showcase launched RI Startup Week, didn't it? And I want to ask you how that event positions URI as a statewide hub for research commercialization.
Yeah, so we did. We worked with an organization called RI Hub, Rhode Island Hub, which is really a cross-state innovation center and incubator program that was set up 5 or 6 years ago now by the state in cooperation with Brown University and URI, in really supporting all of our colleges and universities throughout Rhode Island. And now RI Hub I am also the chair of RIHub, by the way, so there's two hats there. But RIHub now runs this annual event, and it's been 3 or 4 years. I actually think 4 or 5 years since RIHub started this, and it's gained statewide attention. And now every September, RIHub has Innovation Week for Rhode Island. And last year was the first time. Brown has done it in past years. Brown has had a tech showcase. And last year was the first time we stepped up and said in a significant way, we're going to be a showcase partner as well. And we're early in the week. We were on Tuesday night. So it starts on Monday with I think there's even people going out on a ferry and seeing around the coast of Rhode Island. And then on Tuesday, we kicked off our showcase to kick off that week. And we look forward to doing it even bigger and better this year.
Allison, I want to turn back to you for a second because you've been on the podcast before, but it was while you were at Woods Hole Oceanic Institution. You just joined URI Innovations. What drew you to this role, and what's your vision for tech transfer at URI?
Sure. I mean, I think from everything Pete has covered so far, it's obvious to me what drew me to this role. There's so much enthusiasm and passion for what Pete does and what everyone does at URI with the whole URI Innovations team. But they were in a place where there was incredible momentum around the program. And there's visible institutional and leadership commitment, which, as you know, in the tech transfer field is not often found. And so coming into an environment where the university is really enthusiastic about this work, the team is really enthusiastic about this work, it felt exciting. Pete and I had met a few years ago along with Christian Cowan, and I was kind of immediately drawn to their vision for what tech transfer could be. I think last time I was on the podcast, we talked about me having kind of a non-traditional background in tech transfer. And so Pete also does. And so I think we bring different strengths to the program, and it makes this really well-rounded group that is ready to move quickly. And that's really exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on at URI Innovations, and it sounds like a really exciting opportunity. And I want to ask you, tech transfer is often seen as a back office function. How are you making it central to the innovation story there at URI?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of what I was doing at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution helps a lot in this. We were a small function there as well. And so we really needed to think about tech transfer creatively. And at URI, we're in kind of a similar place where we don't really want this to be framed as the IP and patents office. We want it to be framed as this whole ecosystem where there is opportunity tied to it, not just obligation. And so that's really what we're trying to build is this is all about an impact platform rather than a patents office. And so again, we're really focused on earlier engagement, providing clearer options to faculty and students. And then really, really importantly, celebrating outcomes and the stories coming out of those projects. I think Pete and I align well on this too with his background in sales and marketing, but telling the story around what we do and how we do it is important, not just internally, but externally. It frames tech transfer in a different way that we are about amplifying the impact of this really incredible research coming from the University of Rhode Island.
Given that, how do you inspire researchers to think about commercialization without compromising their academic mission?
I think it really is all about framing it around impact rather than commercialization or revenues. We're not replacing scholarship or their scholarly pursuits. We're not limiting them in any way when it comes to publication or how they speak about or share their research in most ways. We're also trying to frame this in a way where we're encouraging people to think about different avenues where they don't need to be a business person to participate in this. They don't need to want to be a business person to participate in this. If they would like to start a company eventually, wonderful. We can connect them with the resources to help them do that. But there's so many different ways to structure roles in this space that can strengthen research and can do that via partnerships and different avenues for funding. And then the really cool thing about joining URI has been that there's a student body there. I mean,
yeah, you were pretty much on your own when I believe I remember when we had you on the podcast before, you had to go out and kind of physically engage with the researchers there. And it was a very challenging part of your job. And it sounds like that is not as significant a problem here.
Very, very proactive outreach. I'll say I enjoyed doing it. So it was a positive experience. And I look forward to doing more of it at URI. We want to get out there and show our faces to the faculty and students and say, hey, we're here to help. So I think there will be a lot of that proactive outreach at URI as well. But all done in a way to help us grow the ecosystem, not because we're trying to bump disclosure numbers.
Now, speaking of the ecosystem, what's been some of the biggest challenges in building the ecosystem? And Allison, what have you learned?
I think the biggest challenge has just been letting people know that we're here and we're open to the conversation. There are oftentimes in academia a lot of misconceptions around what tech transfer is and what it does. And as you know, if someone has one negative experience with the system, whether that's a tech transfer office's fault or not, sometimes that can create this barrier for them to ever come back and work with us again. And similarly, I think peer-to-peer conversations and encouragement are so important. And so if that person didn't find value in it, they're not going to encourage their peers to come talk to us as well. So that has been a challenge, not because it was anyone's fault. There was nothing bad done in the past. I think it's just getting in front of people and saying, we're here to help. Here's how we can do that, and giving them that transparency that they've been wanting for some time.
Now, you guys have a lot of really great programs going on, a lot of activity. I'm curious, Pete, given this rebranding, what do you see the future looking like the next 5 to 10 years? And what does success look like for URI Innovations?
Yeah. So I'm happy to say, actually, it's been a couple of years now, but our university plan, priority number 1, goal number 2 is to create an innovation hub at the university. So that's ultimately where we're aligned with the tippy top priorities and goals of our university vision for the next 10 years. And I think what we've done is we've used the last few years to pilot those in a grassroots way, in a quiet way, not from the top down, but from the bottom up, and create excitement. And we want to work with the university now. The university's embracing this is core to the culture of the university to create that hub. We want to create this Rhody Innovation Hub, which is not as much a place. I mean, there are places and spaces, but it's also an ethos, and it's a program, and it's a concierge service that Allison and I and a team of people are putting in place, where we're more entrepreneurs than we are academics, right? Where we're meeting the university where it is and helping our faculty, researchers, students really have that impact that Allison talks so elegantly about, and see how they can take their brilliant inventions and turn them into innovations that all the world can use. And there's never been a better time in my memorable history to do that in this world. And we're really looking to make that impact at the university.
So do you have an aspirational vision for URI's role in the national innovation landscape?
We don't talk much about it, but we would love, there are some very big names, especially where we are here in the upper right quadrant of the country, with the likes of MIT and Babson and Northeastern, and there's a lot of great universities, even Brown University, one of our sister universities here in the state. But we would love to be recognized as we are the flagship university for the state of Rhode Island, and we would love to be recognized for having a best-in-class innovation entrepreneurship program that others can use as an example of what to do right. So that's really, I'm not going to put a number on it, but to begin with, we just want to be up there. And right now, we're just happy to be in the early stages of making that happen.
Given all that you're building there at URI Innovations, do you have some advice for some other universities that are investing in tech transfer and commercialization?
Sure. And I guess it's the same advice that I got. And that is just to just do it, right? The old Nike slogan. So that's just to be brave and to not let perfect be the enemy of good enough. Get started. Do it enthusiastically and with passion, and work with the university and the researchers and get to work. So we're my best advice that we got, and again, John Soderstrom from Yale gave us, is just get started taking those shots on goal, and some of them are going to go in, and there's no substitute for action versus planning. Yeah.
Allison, if someone listening to this podcast is a URI faculty member or student with an innovative idea or technology, what's the first step that they should take?
I think we want to encourage them to keep it simple. Pick up the phone and call us, send us an email. We do host office hours, so they're welcome to join us for those. They're welcome to poke around our new website, which will be launching in the next week. But there's really no kind of minimum level of readiness that they need to be at in order to come and talk to us. We want to have those early conversations. So we're here, we're willing. Let's just have a discussion.
And Pete, if someone is an entrepreneur, an investor, or a company in Rhode Island or beyond, can be anywhere, looking to collaborate with URI, how do they engage?
Oh, absolutely. Same as Allison said, we're 7x24. Call us on our cell. Our emails are very accessible, and we really welcome the engagement at the University of Rhode Island and in Rhode Island in general, where we're the smallest state, but we punch above our weight. And what we lack in scale, we make up for enthusiasm, we say. And so we really look forward to those interactions, and we would love to have folks reach out to us and work with us.
Well, congratulations to the two of you on the rebranding. What an amazing job the two of you are doing to build the ecosystem there at URI Innovations. Best of luck as you continue to move forward.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk with you.
Pete and Allison, thank you for joining us. It's clear that URI Innovations is entering an exciting phase with a new brand, transformative initiatives like Rise Up, and real momentum around startups and innovation. We'll be watching URI's journey and look forward to celebrating the success stories that come from this ecosystem.
Thanks for listening to Autumn on the Air with Lisa Mueller. Get social with us and share your thoughts. You can tweet us at AUTM or visit us online at autm.net. We'll be back next week on the air. Be sure to join us.